Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about security policies in the Palo Alto Network's next generation firewall. So if you go to policies and then you go to the security tab on the left, by default you have two policies. So first we have an intra-zone policy, which is inside the same zone, and we have an inter-zone policy, which is between zones. So initially, the firewall out of the box will allow traffic to other devices inside of the same zone. So like we talked about before, everything inside of a Palo Alto is zone-based security. So if it crosses a zone, it has to have a policy because the intra-zone policy you see here, its action is deny. So a couple things we're going to do real quick that I always like to point out. So you'll notice that it has this little green gear under the name. If you highlight the rule down here at the bottom, you can actually override the setting. So inside these rules, there's a couple settings. So if you're forwarding logs somewhere else, by default, it does not forward logs anywhere. So you would need to set that. But it also doesn't log in general. So to see any traffic that's hitting the intra-zone rule, you would need to log at sessions end. So I also, as a best practice, don't like to have a rule that allows traffic that I don't specifically allow. So I always set this to deny as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. The second thing I want to do on the interzone rule is I want to select it, and then I'm going to go to override, and I'm going to go to actions, and it's already set to deny, but I'm going to go ahead and check log at session end, so I'll actually get denies inside the log for anything that hits this rule. I like to do this, set both of these rules this way, just so I can see if anything gets past the rules that I have. And these kind of become my intra-zone and inter-zone deny all default rules. So if we go down to the bottom and we click add, so we have a new rule. On the general tab and under each of these tabs, you'll notice there's a red line. So when you see this red line here, this means that there is required information that you have to complete before you would actually be able to click OK. So for this one, I'm just going to call this on my allow rule. And we're going to allow traffic from the inside to go to the outside. So under rule type here, by default, it goes to universal. So if you reach over here and grab the little drop down, you'll notice that a rule type can be one of three different types of rules. So universal is the default, and that means it can be intra-zone or inter-zone. An intra-zone rule only means it's only going to be specific for traffic inside the same zone. And inter-zone means it's only going to be for traffic outside or between zones. So you can set this. I always just leave it as universal because I usually have a mix of traffic inside the zone and traffic between zones. Give a description, which is highly recommended to actually know what this rule is. I know a lot of times we create rules and we say, hey, this is a temporary rule, or I'll come back and do it. Temporary rules become permanent and nobody comes back and puts comments in there. So when you create the rule, put the intent of the rule in here so at least yourself or the person who comes behind you will have some information of what's going on. We can add tags so we can actually color code these rules. So this one I'm going to say is a outside rule since it's going to have traffic going to the internet. You can group rules by tags, and we're going to come back and talk about that in another video about organizing and filtering your security rules. If you have audit comments, so if you have change control, you can put that in here. There are some settings inside of the firewall that you can make it if you don't have audit comments that it won't allow you to commit. So the next tab we're going to jump to is the source tab. So from here, you can be as generic and select any on these rules. We have zones, we have addresses, we have users, and we have devices. So I like to try to be as specific as possible. So here we're going to select our source as the inside zone. We're going to select our address. And we don't have any addresses or address groups for our local area network. So I'm going to go ahead and from here, I'm going to create an address. I'm going to call this my LAN subnet. And I'm going to leave it as an IP net mask. And here we're going to do 172.23.8.0/24. And I'm going to give it a tag of inside. I'm going to say OK. So now anything in the inside zone with an IP address of my LAN subnet. I don't have user ID set up, so I can't lock this down to specific users or specific groups from my identity provider. So I'm going to leave it set as any, and I don't have any devices. That device information can be retrieved from our IoT or device security license or from host information profiles for Global Protect. So for destination, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the outside zone. I'm going to allow this to any destination since I don't know where they're going to out on the internet. Under application, here's where I can actually lock this down to specific applications, and that is the best practice. For this lab environment right now in this basic rule set, I'm just going to allow it as any application. And then under service category, we're going to use the application default. When we talked about applications and application groups and application filters, when you click on an application, it shows you the ports and the protocols that it uses by default. So that locks this down to application default. If you wanted to, or if you needed to for a custom application, you could actually change this to any, or you could change it to select, and then you could add in the chosen ports and protocols that you wanted here. If you're locking this down, you were trying to filter by URL category, you could do that as well. And then the last part under actions, we're going to allow this traffic. We're going to log at session end. We're not forwarding any logs at this point. We'll come back and talk about that in a later video. You can set schedules here. If you need QoS for this rule traffic, you can set that here. And then under profile settings, this is where we would actually set our profiles or our groups for our CDSS. So for this moment, I'm going to set this as none. We'll definitely come back and talk about these and show you how you apply CDSS to rules, but this is where it would happen. I'm going to say OK. Right now, I'm going to go and I'm going to commit this traffic or commit this configuration. So when we get done with this, we can actually start trying to pass traffic. Okay, our commit completed successfully. So now we should be able to go to our monitor tab. And if we go to the traffic log, if we refresh, we probably won't see anything. If we go to our test device here that is behind the firewall on the internal side, make sure we have an IP address, and we do. And we're going to see if we can ping Google. And we cannot. So if we go back to our firewall, let's see if we actually see anything in our logs, and we do not. So give me one moment, and I'm going to do a little troubleshoot real quick and see what part I've missed. Okay, we're back. In an effort to make a step-by-step video series on configuring the next generation firewall, I forgot that I had not created static routes yet. So I actually had to go into the firewall and to my logical routers and give myself a path out to the internet so traffic would actually know how to get there. So now if I go back to my firewall and I'm going to ping Google, we'll notice now that it actually works. And if I go back to my firewall, to the monitor tab, to my traffic log, we can now see that we have traffic going from the inside zone to the outside zone with a source that is inside my 172.23.8, my LAN subnet, going to destinations on the outside. You notice it's hitting the rule, allow internet rule. And if I go back to my security policy and I scroll to the right, you'll notice that this rule has hits. In my troubleshooting, I also realized that in my best practices of setting this rule for interzone default to deny, I also inevitably stopped my ability to do pings from my router to my outside zone and from my client to my inside zone. So I'm going to go here with a policy and I'm going to create another policy that's going to allow ping for testing. And once again, my inability to spell. And we're just going to come back to, so for source, I'm going to say any source and I'm going to say any destination. And for the application, I'm actually going to allow ping. Then the action is going to be allow, make sure I log, say okay. So now I have ping on anything. I actually want to take that rule and down here at the bottom in the middle, I want to click move and I want to move to the top. So now that rule will be hit first because security policies go in order. So I'm going to hit this rule and match specifically for ping, and then I would hit my rule to go out to the internet, and then everything else should be blocked. So if I go back to my client, and from my client, I'm going to try to go to 172.23.8.1, which is the IP address of my inside interface. And I should be able to hit this, but it is not actually working. So let's go back to our firewall, monitor tab. So here I have a drop from inside to inside, 172.23.8.100 to 8.1 with the application of ping, and it is denied. So let's check our policy and see why that is happening. Okay, in another moment of my humanness, I forgot to commit. So I created a new rule. I did not commit, so my rule did not take effect. So note to self, I'm going to close here, and then now I can go back to my client and I can ping, and so now I have a successful ping. So now we've learned how to create some rules, we've learned about order of operation, and we've learned a little bit of troubleshooting because of my inability to follow my own rules. So if we go back to our monitor tab on the traffic log, from inside to inside, we have a source of 100, a destination of 8.1 with ping, and it is allowed, and we're hitting our allow ping testing rule. So this has been a quick little introduction to building security policies, and through this set of videos so far, we have actually gotten a firewall from we just installed it to we are able to pass traffic out to the internet. So we're going to continue this series. We're going to get deeper into security policies. We're going to get deeper into other policies on the firewall. We're going to get deeper into routing. We're going to continue the series and go all the way through all of the different feature and functionality that we can for the Palo Alto Network Next Generation Firewall. So I hope this video has been informative, and thank you very much.